to pay for. I know there's quite a bit of money in that foundation. I know their budget, main department budget's well over.
I'm not sure where, that part of
Be in
them.
there. And then,
Do we not have insurance?
An insurance item?
depending on which, we don't know till the major cost is,
Do we know what kind of deductible we have?
It depends with MRGA, you have to contact them and then they'll decide. It's not set in stone. Our insurance is, I've never dealt with anybody like this before.
We're talking over $6,000 if all this stuff has to be replaced. We just don't know about the cable until we get there.
So do we need to contact the insurance company and have them look at it, or what? I mean,
We've not contacted anybody yet.
do
as far as
we need
insurance
to?
goes.
Do we need to?
can you get the carport off and see what we got underneath, see if we gotta replace the expensive part, the cages, I guess is what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
the runs where the 6 runs on that side of the houses the animals, that's probably be about most expensive.
Well, you can see some of them obviously gotta be replaced, so the structure is falling down in depth, the framing and whatever else.
Are they usable or are they just?
I don't know, I mean, you've got I looked at them, but it's, yeah, you could say that they might be usable, but by the same token, that it's gonna degrade the whole project if you leave them all bent out of shape and whatever and use them as they are. So I think if we got insurance, that's the reason we pay insurance premium, we at least ought to have them come look at it.
Well, will they pass inspection though, when them being up like that?
I doubt it.
That's something else you gotta consider, is whether they'll pass spec inspection.
Well, won't they give us time? I mean, to
Well,
get
they were due here today, and because of the snow and ice and whatever else, they didn't come. I spent a whole lot of time out there Saturday trying to make the place presentable, and so it might pass inspection again. And unfortunately, the snow and ice came, and so they didn't show up either, and now we got this additional damage. So, yeah, there's not any doubt, if they come in, they say, well, there's nothing good.
I would think they probably factor the weather, since it just happened. But let's just take, you can contact the insurance tomorrow, be in touch with Mr. Wilson, and
and then look
let
into
me know what's going on.
how much money's in the foundation fund. I mean, if it's just part of it, I would never complain.
If it's just an awning that needs to be replaced or minor.
We're venturing off into something that I don't personally want to see us get into. That's a city facility out there. And the people that contributed money to the animals didn't do that to take care of the buildings. They contributed money to take care of the animals. If we start delving into that money, next thing you know, we're gonna use it up, and the people are gonna quit making contributions.
Well, if we get shut down, the animals aren't gonna be in very good shape.
Understand, because what would have happened if the city, the roof had caved in on this building?
But Mr. Hancock, we're way over budget on the main side, and I understand what you're saying, but the overtime for all the activities is being paid for by citizens. And I understand, but we're not, there's a foundation money, but we're still paying vet bills by city check too. And supplies, and it's all getting used up by cities. I just
We're getting a tremendous amount of donation for food, supplies, etc. If we didn't get, the city would be paying for it. So it doesn't show up on the books, but it's there. We gotta keep that in mind. Let's go kill the goose that laid the golden egg here.
Well, I think the city insurance needs to be checked into first.
Until kind of call throughout,
Yeah.
We'll do that, and we'll notify everybody via email. Okay? All right, are you gonna spend the money yet, or are you?
I'm Or, wait a minute, that's what I was talking.
Yes.
We can take that $7,000 we're getting back from the insurance company and use it.
I think it should go up to the people. They're the ones that made that 7,000 come back.
Okay, but I mean, just there's a little pile of money sitting over here, and I'm just thinking there's another way to spend it. You know, if the insurance won't cover the dog pound, then we must take the insurance money and pay for it. You know, if we say we're strapped for cash, let's think about what all we got. So let's make sure we've explored every avenue before we do anything.
Might be where we at least come up with a deductible or whatever.
Yeah. That's
Well, let's visit the subject. We'll take that into account.
No, I don't want to speak, but I'm just saying.
Oh, yes, sir.
Another line of thought might have been something like that.
I don't want all of it spent, you know, not a $7,000 party of the taxpayers' money. Just a small portion of it. All right. Well, thank you. All right, let's back up a little bit. Let's go back. We got the full council here now. Talk about the Public Safety Department ordinance. The discussion is over. Is there a motion for any ordinance?
Motion.
We have a motion to accept the ordinance as written. Is that correct, Mr. McMahon?
With the amendments.
With amendments.
With the amendment.
Okay, there's a motion to accept the ordinance with the amendments that's been discussed by the council. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there a discussion on this motion?
Let's do a first reading.
First reading.
An ordinance establishing the position of Director of Public Safety, Deputy Chief of Police Department, Deputy Chief of Fire Department, abolishing the police and fire committees of the City Council, and establishing the Public Safety Committee of the City Council. Now, I'll remind you, when you vote the first time, you're just voting to approve the first reading. You're not voting yes or no on the ordinance itself.
Discussion regarding this motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Second reading.
An ordinance establishing the positions of Director of Public Safety, Deputy Chief of Police Department, Deputy Chief of Fire Department, abolishing the police and fire committees of the City Council, and establishing a Public Safety Committee of the City Council.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Time for discussion. Any discussion regarding this motion? This will be a roll call vote, and it comes to the right-hand side.
Yes.
No. Yes.
No. Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Good question, I didn't think about that earlier. Excuse me 1 second.
We can't go into closed session for that right now.
No. Is it open? All the
You
details
can do
been
it.
discussed?
Not the whole- You don't have to go into closed session, discuss personnel.
Right thing to do or wrong thing?
It's usually the right thing to do.
Let's talk about the personnel, the person that's gonna fill the position of, and not details, but the position. What's the right thing to do?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious who's going to fill
Yes.
the position. But I don't know if all the details as to pay and anything else has been figured out or considered or anything else. So, I mean, there's, probably ought to be done, I would think the proper thing to do would be discuss it in a closed session, but since it wasn't earlier announced and it wasn't on the agenda, we might need a special meeting at some point.
Well, and because the ordinance says it's effective immediately,
Well, the ordinance is effective immediately, but doesn't mean that it's
not
filled.
filling them, okay.
Do we need to back up?
I really don't think, it wouldn't be proper to go into a closed session at this point, or to announce a closed session, since it wasn't announced at the first of the meeting. I think would be a better practice As far as the open meetings law is to maybe have a special meeting or a special closed meeting where proper notice is given to the public and the media.
And with that,
And you can also, from prior to that meeting, have some idea as to what type of pay scale or what other type of job conditions there might be.
at that time, would it then be, discussed how we're gonna come up with the deputy directors?
No. At that time, unless you were going to be hiring a deputy director at that time, or the deputy chief at that time, because we wouldn't be discussing individual personnel, or individually identifiable personnel. So the proper time to discuss the method about which you're going to hire a deputy chief would be to do it in an open meeting.
I think it was kind of just thrown out there at the last meeting that they could put in their resumes, but, put in applications, but nothing has been,
You
Burned
could go
up.
into it right now?
I mean, this is something that would need to be discussed in an open meeting, as to the method about how you're going to hire or select the deputy chiefs.
So could we post copies of the job descriptions of both jobs and just say that we're accepting resumes from, I guess, what, in-house?
Sure.
From whatever date to whatever date?
Sure.
And then, I mean, what
Sure.
else would we wanna do? I mean, that makes sense to me, is that, just have, I guess Crystal would post them wherever, in Ward or something. Maybe at the fire station and then the police department, so that everybody sees them. And then we just want resumes, not applications, but it's my understanding the city application is pretty, probably not suited to, maybe to what we're looking for, maybe a resume would be better.
I'd rather see a resume as detailing their work history and everything,
Yeah.
experience, and so on. It's hard to do on that application, real quick, so.
How long do you all want that to take place? What kind of time period are you looking?
Well, it's all gonna be in-house, so we have our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Who's gonna look over the,
Well,
is that the whole council?
I think, Larry, you've got to establish your new committee first, and then it would need to be submitted to that new committee, I suppose.
I was hoping that we can establish a new committee but we have one more meeting. And then we'll be sitting new committees anyway.
Yeah.
So I would like to just start fresh with the new council.
Have the president, fire and police committee jointly review the resume or whatever.
That would be fine. I have no problem with that. That's up to you all, what you want.
There's really no rush on this. I mean, we've got good personnel.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no need in rushing into this.
I agree.
Well, there's no need to rush into it, but there's no need to drag it out either, because I mean, I think that's what's caused a lot of the, people
Yeah,
not
but
knowing.
I'm talking about by the next meeting. I don't think this 2-week period frame would be,
But if we advertised it or whatever,
sure, I mean,
if
you
we
can
put it and then said,
what I'm saying is in 2 weeks, we're not gonna sit down and hire somebody in 2 weeks, you know.
no, but we could make that the cutoff for receiving resumes, right? I mean, that'd be long enough. It might take some people time to get the resume in order.
I think it's reasonable time, and then after that could be all the interviewing and,
Yeah.
it could be up to a month from now or a month and a half
You know,
from now.
there's no, I'm saying there's no need in rushing into this, you know, and trying to pick somebody. I mean, we've got personnel in hand and till we get the director in place anyway. Really, I don't see a need in hurrying until we get the director set in stone and get him in position, in seat. He needs to be, part of this position, this role is hiring these, putting these chiefs in place. They're gonna be his they're gonna be his, right hand, left hand. So,
We just gotta find a director. I don't know where to look for a director. Put a little smile on the face. Well, I think we're going right, I mean, as council, are we pretty much on the same page as to how to find the next director? We're good with that? Okay, we'll move forward with that. Okay, well, department reports. Y'all have anything for department reports?
This is the time of the year David and I went to the EMP Emergency Management Program grant. It's called the EMPG grant. And this is where we get our 50% match. And it's been done way back before I was the Emergency Management Director. It's due the end of this month. We went to the state meeting, we learned what we can do. Some of that stuff, we've gotten this last year, service contracts on our generators for them to do the servicing of them. We had it in there for a service agreement for the outdoor early warning sirens, but because they were late in executing the grant from the feds, I didn't want to put the city out on some money that we got cut. We didn't know if we'd get our 50%. But they allowed us to, we had in there for different office supplies and stuff, and since we've moved up here with the city clerk's office being there and using her copy machine a bunch, we just took that and had a contract made for that, was able to service that, and there was some other stuff in there. Was able to get some letterhead for the code and the property maintenance developed. So there was a lot of things in there. Last year it was in the tune of 25, almost 26,000. It was a 50% match. Anticipated it'll be about that amount this year, depending on, and that's what allowed us to purchase like our for disaster preparedness, the iPads, a hotspot, cell phone use, and stuff like that. They match on. With that, we'll be applying for that. I'll try to let you know some more details at the next meeting as to what it looks like we're trying to do. We're going to add some things to change it. Along that same lines, several of us, we've got 2 in-house instructors, Paul Spain and Lance Davis, went to the trainer for this new program. It's called WEB, EOC, stands for Web-Based Emergency Operations Center. And as opposed to 2009, when we did everything on paper and we had to collect all that paper and it was a nightmare, this is a free disaster management program that the state has adopted and passed down to the locals. So we went through that training. We had an exercise today on it. It went pretty well. They've had a few glitches. They've corrected them already. What it allows us to do is go back and recapture some of the stuff on our requests for equipment, hours, what the city done in the course of each day, things that occurred. So it will allow us to capture that stuff, to be able to get our reimbursement process from the feds a whole lot easier. With that training, there'll be additional training going on for additional departments and personnel within the city, as well as light and water, and some of the other important entities out there. I think it's going to be a program that's going to allow us in the future. And you say, well, it's web-based. What happens if we lose our internet? Well, that's where with the Suburban that we have, when we go on to the satellite, we'll be able to use the satellite internet system. So hopefully with that, it's given us a little bit more upper hand if we did have a disaster, in order to document it and go back and recapture that when we go into the reimbursement through the FEMA process. And that's about all I have right now. Any questions?
Update the council on Station 1.
Station 1, yes, sir. We met with the contractor, went over all the points, and we have accepted that. It's been turned back over to us. And so far, with the ice on there, it doesn't look like it's done any damage to what the ice did back in '09. And, it's looking good, invite you to go by there. The only thing left to do is to re-put some of the built-in desk and some other stuff back there. We'll probably do that with their own, in-house, labor, putting it back, finishing up. So it has been accepted back. And, the only thing left is waiting on the contractor for the roofs that we put the bid out on. They've been inundated with roofs that were ahead of us, and cold weather has caused a problem, so they don't wanna come down here and put a roof on and it not be a top job with the ice and snow and cold weather they have, so we're working with it. I let them know that May was a drop dead date, because basically our budget's up in June, and I don't want them coming in here end of May trying to do something for that.
Are you talking about Fire Station 1 where that?
No, that would be, there was a bid let for Fire Station 3 and the building out back.
That's what you're like.
That's what we're waiting on.
Both of them different.
Thank you, John. Any other department?
Just a quick update, in case you all haven't noticed, the streets got bad over the weekend. Start off with, like you all mentioned on the DPS, you're basically hearing about complaints. My phone rang off the wall yesterday and today when we were in the office, people complaining because we were cleaning the intersections and pushing the snow out of the intersections and putting it on the right of way and the easements. So in case you all hear that, yes, we did that along First Street, St. Francis, and the bypasses. But we felt like that was a needed chore. But like I said, we're not making very many people, or we're not making some people happy. We got 2 people that were quite bitter about it, in fact. So as the warm weather comes along, hopefully in the next few days, I'll throw it out. You all want us to work on the streets where we can? Are we gonna go with the complaints? Because there's enough snow on the streets. When we start cleaning them, we're gonna throw up a pretty good ridge, kinda like MoDOT did. And we've already had one call about that. Don't you do that by my driveway? So, and this is on our main thoroughfare, what we call our arterial streets is where we're gonna start. So, I just thought I'd throw that out in case you all wanna tell me not to do that.
What's best for the greater good?
That's the way we've been addressing it. So, but I, like I said, I just wanted to give everybody the opportunity to do that.
Well, I can tell you what, there's no telling how many cars I pulled out of intersections Monday morning because they couldn't get through the intersection, and I appreciate what you did. And I wanna brag on you, because I was out at 5 o'clock and Randy, the department head, was in the loader, working at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's part of the job. A lot of other department heads work overtime too.
John was out there too, I see him.
But, just not complaining, we're gonna keep going, but just yesterday and today, the loader and the backhoe and the tractor, and then today running 3 trucks, our fuel bill was over $150 just for that, so it's gonna continue now. I would like to ask a little bit of flexibility, in the next few days on trying to work around the snow. Right now, we're kinda limited. It's freezing back in the afternoons and it's very hard to get up. We were working last night on the square and had to quit because it started freezing back. But part of that's gonna need to be done early and some of it's gonna need to be done late as we get into the week. So, we're gonna be, I guess I'm just asking for your blessing to have flexibility to get the job done as best we can. One good thing to report, through contacts, like some John mentioned and you all mentioned, got a phone call the other day from a friend in MoDOT. And MoDOT's been doing using a new process on some of their highways, and right now they're the only ones they know of that are doing it in the state. They had a meeting last Thursday, and they asked, can I give this company your name? In visiting with you, we think it would be a process that could help you with some of your streets. So I got a phone call today from a gentleman who was tied up in the traffic on Interstate 55. And he said, I'm going through here all my contacts, that I'm needing to return phone calls to. I don't have enough information to visit with you, but is it okay if I come visit with you in, in the next week or so, or something like that? This is a process called undersealing. And what they do is they come in, it's an asphalt sealer, and they come in and they drill holes in some of the panels, the concrete panels, and pump hot asphalt in underneath it and stabilize it. They don't actually jack it up and level it, but where we've got some panels, and one of the places I'm thinking about is North College, by the cemetery, where it's kind of wavy. A lot of those panels are in good shape. If we could stabilize that possibly, and that's one of the places I want to show him because I don't know everything about it, then we could do an overlay on that and level it. But the problem I've had with the thought of overlaying it is we still got a lot of heavy traffic up through there, and when it gets real wet, when that water doesn't have any place to go up there, is the subbase not being firm enough to hold it. So just to throw this out, that, possibly we may have something new to look at. I don't know how expensive it is, whether they'd be willing to come this far. Project they would have to consider it, because apparently they're not working with too many cities and stuff like that to do that. But just a possibility.
Find out more information and let us know.
Right, yeah, and he wasn't trying to be short today, but he said he'd rather sit down with us and visit with us and explain it rather than trying to do it over the phone. Just something to look at, kind of. Thank you.
Street signs look good, Mr. Carter.
Thank you. And the weather slowed us down a little bit on that yesterday and today too, so. It may for another couple more days.
Anything else, please?
Continue on that, I'm sorry. I'm afraid we're gonna have some street flooding too, because of the drains. A lot of the drains are open because of the warm air that was in the ground, kept them open right on top of the grate. But I'm afraid we're gonna have a lot of freezing and thawing around the drains. We'll be working on those, but just kind of a heads up, as much ice as we've got on the streets, I'm afraid we're gonna have some flooding, local street flooding right there. But we'll be working on it.
All right.
My mother always told me, if I didn't have anything good to say, sort of be quiet. But I feel like I cannot be quiet tonight. I've never, in over 30 years in law enforcement, feel like I've been so disrespected. And I was supposed to be in charge of this department. How do I go back to my guys and tell them everything just got said, and not one person stood up and said, y'all do a great job. We wear a vest to go to work. That means we won't make it home Sunday. People in this town, 2 days ago, officer in Arizona got shot. 2 of them got shot one day. This is going all over the country. But not one of y'all, there I take exception to what you said. Yeah, we try to vent people. We try to go through and hire the right people. But when you want to do it for $10.50 or $12 an hour, you cannot get all the great people. We're losing our great people to other cities. Now, I don't know why that is so hard to understand. You shouldn't say things like that. You're the mayor of this town. You represent law enforcement. And for you to sit there and say how pretty and shiny the fire department are, how many employees do they have? How many?
In the fire department?
In the fire department.
Got code, 12?
So I'd either take care of 12 or it is 25. We dispatch for the fire, we get no reimbursement for that. He's talking about budgets. Show me in the budget where we're so much over budget, other than overtime, and overtime, y'all know why we're overtime. Nobody to work. These guys come in every day. These last 2 days have been miserable for police and fire. These guys are stopping, getting out of their cars, helping people, falling down, hurting themselves, getting back up and helping people. That's what we do. When you need help, Mr. Mayor, you call, we're there. We don't sit there and get tied up in this little small politics. We're there to help you. Nobody said, well, we better slow it down, and we're going to. He's not for it. That don't even come into there. We're going to be there, and we're going to help you and save who we can save. And that's our job. That's what we do. We don't complain, moan, and gripe. Yeah. Salaries, everybody knows when you take a job as a police officer. Salaries are low. Take it or leave it. Go into the private sector, make a lot more. We were told today. People that deliver the laundry here could pick up the rugs. He graduated to a different job, took manager, he hired somebody $54,000 a year starting out. Whoa. You know, I cannot sit there and let nobody run these people down. Yeah, we've had some bad apples, who hadn't? We've done to everybody, city attorney, he can